Hello all! So I just got back from seeing The Mummy, the first film in Universal's new Dark Universe. The first film of that new franchise where they're trying to bring back all the old Universal monsters like Dracula and the Wolfman and the Mummy and the Invisible Man. They're trying to bring them all back. I just saw The Mummy, the first film of that new series, and I thought I should give my review on it. I should say whether or not it's good and let you know whether or not you should see it. Now, this movie, you're probably already aware, has been getting a lot of negative reviews. Everyone's been saying it's kind of middle ground, or they didn't really like it at all, or some even saying it's so bad it's good. And I've noticed over the years that every now and then there's a movie that everyone assumed would be bad well before they saw it, and then when they eventually saw it, they said it was bad because they kind of prejudged it. Every now and then a movie comes along there, everybody thinks it's a bad idea, and then when it eventually comes out, it's a bad idea in everybody's minds. But these movies tend to not really be that bad. It's just people labeled them as bad well before the fact. When The Mummy was coming out, when the first trailers were airing, every comment that I saw at least was negative. There's too much CGI, there's not enough horror, yada yada yada. All these assumptions without even seeing enough of the movie. So of course everyone's gonna hate it. Well, I didn't. It was a pretty darn good movie. I'd give it an 8 out of 10 actually. And I really liked it. Now if you saw it and you gave it your good fair time and you didn't like it, that's fine. You probably have some good reasonings. But let me go over my reasonings of why I thought it was pretty darn good. Why I thought it deserves an 8 out of 10. And let's go over the pros of this movie first instead of the cons, since this movie has enough bad reviews already. So why did I like this movie so much? Well, first off, this movie sells itself like it should on the villain, because this is the Dark Universe, and that's what it's supposed to be doing. It sells itself on the Mummy, the main villain, the Amunet, if I'm pronouncing that properly. This character was really interesting and really well casted. She's a great villain, and they do a great job with her. I thought she was very interesting, very well acted. The actress that they got for her is very physical. She's been in a lot of physical heavy roles in the past, and she does a great job with that kind of stuff. What makes this villain interesting is, okay, she's kind of this old school cliche of the seductress. The standard vampire, really beautiful, can seduce any man to do anything and has complete control over men. And all that. This cliche, when it's done, it's usually really bad and really painful. I think it's a bit sexist towards both men and women in the fact that it has a woman hired only for her appearance. They develop that character barely at all. And of course it insinuates that men will do anything if they think they'll get laid. None of that is good. None of that is good at all. And it's really sucky that they would hire someone and develop that character so little and just go off their looks. But, interestingly enough, this movie doesn't do that. It actually takes that cliche and turns it on its head and does something new with it, which it was really cool. The reason why this character is so obsessed with seduction isn't because she just wants to get laid by anybody she can bump into. No, it's because she is obsessed with power. She's obsessed with controlling people and trying to make people do whatever she wants. And when she loses that control, she does some really brutal things out of pure rage over losing control. Some really, really brutal things. By the way, this review will have spoilers. A lot of spoilers. Some really brutal things she does. And there's this really interesting scene where she's trying to control Tom Cruise like she tries to control everyone else, and she realizes at one moment she can't control him. He won't quite do what she wants him to do. And when she realizes this, she just loses it and starts beating the ever-living crap out of him because she's so furious over the fact that she can't control him. Like, she just starts wailing on him, breaking bones, breaking his back, throwing him around like a rag doll. It's an awesome scene. So it was really impressive seeing them take this cliche and actually use it to develop her character and flesh out her character and develop her motive. Like, she is just so dedicated to controlling people, it's kind of a bit unnerving. And the moment she can't control you, or you give some indication that you won't do what she wants, she will just plain kill you. Because there is no insult greater to her than losing control, and she will do whatever it takes to keep control. So that was really cool. That was really interesting. I also liked how they, like I said, she's trying to control Tom Cruise, so she's constantly in his mind, and they show off that mind control in very cool and creative and inventive ways. So that's cool too. I also like what they did with Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. They took that and turned it on its head as well. In this version, the potion that he's taking doesn't turn him into Mr. Hyde, the evil, fiendish Mr. Hyde. It actually keeps him as Dr. Jekyll. He's naturally Mr. Hyde. He's naturally evil, and he's taking the drug as a way to stay good and stay human. So instead of the drug being what makes him evil, it's what's keeping him good. So it literally reverses the entire concept. So that was very creative. Also, I just want to say, doing a horror action, which is what this is very hard to do. I can name off at most 5 horror actions that actually make it work. Almost all the Underworlds are kind of crappy, and all the Resident Evils, except for the first one, are really crappy. So the fact that this is an action horror movie, and it works, and it's good, and has some good action and a few good scares, is impressive. And that's another thing that I like about this movie. It actually has a horror element. The old school 1990s, well, I guess it's not that old school, but the 1990s The Mummy has no horror element. I rewatched it to get ready for this, and if you like it, that's fine. But it has no horror element. None. This, on the other hand, has tons of references to other horror films, has a few jump scares that are actually well done, has some really disturbing elements here and there with what the main villain does, like she goes to some extremes. It has a horror backbone to it. It's not that extreme. It could be your first horror movie. It's not really that scary. It's a good light horror movie if you need a stepping stone, if you haven't seen that much horror before. But it actually has a horror backbone. And I like the fact that it balanced out the horror and the action so well. So I would say those are the really good things. Really good villain, really good balancing out of genres, some good, very good practical effects. Like, a lot of this stuff was done location, practical. They really blew up a building. They really did that zero G sequence in all shows. So a lot of good practical effects and good villain and just enjoyable little horror movie. But let's go on to the bad. Why is this movie bad? What are some genuine, proper complaints? Well, first of all, it over-explains things. At the very beginning of the movie, it explains the mummy, Amenhotep's villain's motives, and how she got her power set. And then about midway through, the archaeological person explains her power set and how she became the way she was. Then, near the end, the mummy herself explains things about how she became the way she was and why she's doing what she's doing. And also, you can kind of discern what happened through the visions that Tom Cruise is getting while the mummy's trying to control his mind. So, it explains her backstory 4 times. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't need that much. It starts to feel like it's talking down to the viewer. I have no idea why it felt like the need to re-explain a very simple plot so many times. That's ridiculous. Also, because of the PG-13, they did have to over-edit 2 action scenes, making them a little hard to follow. They should have given it our... Like I said, they pushed things pretty far. The gore is fine. It didn't have to be very gory, but they did over-edit some of the action scenes, which hurt the action to keep their PG-13. So that was a bit weak. Also, despite how good they developed the villain and how interesting the villain is, and the fact that the villain's going to be the main selling point, and I assumed that they would be bringing her back because that's the whole point of this franchise, to build a franchise off of villains, they killed her off! She dies! The mummy dies at the end! Why? She was a good villain, don't kill her off. Now, given her power set, she could easily come back. Like, it's insinuated that she might very well be immortal and unkillable. But there's no reason to kill her off at all, or even insinuate. And they could have so easily avoided. Like, at the very end, they're covering her corpse in mercury. Just have the mercury ripple a little. You know? That's it. That's all you have to do. And that's good enough indication that she'll be back. So that was a crappy idea. Why build a whole franchise on these villains if you're going to end up killing them off? What the crap? Honestly. But that's it. That's really my only complaints. I thought 2 of the action scenes were a bit too edited. I thought it explained itself a few too many times, and it kind of bummed me out that there was no final jump scare of indicating the mummy was still alive. But that's it, and like I said, given her power set, she could easily come back. But all in all, this movie was solid. It is definitely worth the watch. I am definitely going to get it when it comes out on DVD. It is definitely a solid horror action flick, which is darn hard to do and should be respected because it is darn hard to do. List off 10 good horror action flicks. Do it. Do it. You're going to get stumped. You are going to get stumped because it's actually surprisingly hard to make. There is not many of them. And I don't know why it's hard to do, but it's very hard to do. I can barely think of any. But no, this was a solid film. Now, it kind of bugs me, the concept that this, due to all the bad reviews, might not make enough money, and that means that this whole dark universe might be canned before it even began. Like, if this doesn't break even, will they even make the rest of the planned movies? And I hope they do. This was a good movie, and this could lead to some good stuff. But if it just ends here, it's going to feel like a complete and utter loss. So I really hope that this does well. I'm really hoping, but, you know, it might not. This might be it. So I would say check it out. I would say it's a good movie. I would say give it your proper time. You're going to enjoy it if you actually go in with a bit of an open mind. But once again, if you didn't like it, that's all right. Just know that I don't agree. Anyways, if you did see it, what are your thoughts? How do you feel? What did you like? Do you agree with me that I took some cliches and turned them on its head and got really inventive? Or did you think it was kind of a mess? Let me know. Have a nice night, and cheers.